Yes, it's nice to see everyone again. How are you? Hello, 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 hello. It's Friday. It's Friday, July 10th. One of my second youngest sister's birthday, so let me send a happy birthday to her, and hope that she's doing well on this. What started out as a stormy evening, but now it's looking a little bit better. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lee Meadows. I'm your host for Let's Talk Business for yet and still another Friday. I hope your week has gone well. I hope that you are being safe, that you're taking the right kinds of precautions, that you're keeping up with what's going on in the world of business and the world around you in general. We gather every Friday just to spend some time talking about things that are going on in the business world, to try and share insights and ideas that can be helpful to you, and especially in terms of shaping your career. And each week we try to focus on a particular skill set, something that we know is going to help you as you move through your career. So we're here to talk business, and as we spend time talking business, we always like to give an opportunity to talk about some of the folks who are helping to sponsor us down this path. And so this week we're going to identify a few of our folks. Our good friends Kareem and Percy and Rob over at the Great Lakes Benefit Group, they have been a consistent supporter of me as a professional, of NAAA HR activities. They are a well rounded, highly informed group of individuals who share a lot of insights about some of the benefit issues that are going on in today's environment. They continue to be informed along those particular lines and very supportive of who we are. Now, we're also joined this week for the first time by Vaughn Hurst, who is with USI, another benefits group who specialize in employee benefits, issues around wellness and those kinds of things. They're joining us for the first time, and we're glad to have them as part of the family, and we look forward to some of their ongoing support as things kind of move along. And we haven't had a chance to say hello to my good friend Sherman Edwards over at the Lockton Group, who also do a lot of good work around employee benefits, risk management, and all those particular things that organizations and employers need as they begin to put together the packages of benefits that are going to bring employees into the workplace and to allow them to retain those employees as well. So we're very happy to have, of course, our good friends at Great Lakes Benefit. We want to thank Vaughn Hurst from USI and, of course, my good friend Sherman Edwards over at Lockton. Thank you. We always appreciate your support and look forward to continue to work with you in the years ahead. So I got a couple of comments last week from those of you who are asking me about the notion of emotional intelligence and where it fits in the workplace. Now, emotional intelligence is something that's been around for a while. It's oftentimes portrayed as a specific set of skill areas that managers and leaders need as they work with their employees. And while it is a concept, it's an idea about how we manage ourselves in the workplace. There's some very specific things that are kind of unique to it, and we want to take a little bit of an opportunity to spend some time talking about it. So let me say this: emotional intelligence. There's two points of view about this. One point of view comes from what we call traditionalists, and emotional intelligence is really about trying to manage emotions, obviously. And traditionalists will say that emotions, for the most part, distract us. They tend to increase our vulnerability and they cloud our judgment. They inhibit the free flow of data and that they must be controlled. Now, what that means is that when you're operating in what's known as a traditional workplace, very homogeneous, kind of a single mindedness, very stable work environment, those kinds of things, well, then emotions have never been emphasized other than to say that from time to time when managers or leaders would explode on employees, it tends to make for some bad times. However, in a lot of the new workplaces that we are experiencing, where we spend time talking with high performers, now high performers will say that emotions tend to motivate us. They motivate them to achieve higher goals and to increase their confidence around some of the things that they're attempting to do. They do help to kind of speed the analysis of things. They're also a way for kind of building trust, making sure that there's an opportunity to provide vital feedback, and that rather than emotions being controlled, they just have to be managed. And when we get into some of this, we'll spend time talking about what managing emotions means. Now, an emotional intelligence test I love to give to my clients when we're talking about this topic is how aware are you of emotions from yourself and others on a daily basis? Question 1, do you have the ability to manage your emotions? And the answer is yes, you do have the ability to manage your emotions. Whether you choose to do that is something altogether different. Are you able to use your emotions in a constructive way? Well, part of the communication process also means knowing how to manage your emotions or use your emotions in a way that provides for a constructive interaction between the leader and the follower, the manager, or the direct report, so that there's a constructive ends that's achieved when emotions are being managed. Now, we all know that the workplaces tend to have their own sense of pressure, and so how well do you handle yourself under pressure? Are you the kind of person who explodes unconventionally, or do you know how well you are when pressure occurs and what's expected of you? And finally, are you really honest with yourself about this? Do you really know and understand that your emotions, while they are a vital part of who you are, make up your general character and those kinds of things, are you honest with how you convey your emotions? Now, the reason this subject becomes so important is that we spend so much of our time in the workplace. And while COVID has, for the most part, circumvented a lot of that so that we don't tend to see as much going on in the workplace, when we return to work, we're still going to be returning to the notion of working and interacting with others. And so we have to have some sense of who we are emotionally and how we begin to manage things. And there's going to be added pressure on a number of organizations to begin to produce because of what COVID has done to all of us. So one of the things we want to spend some time doing today is giving you an opportunity to spend some time with this notion of emotional intelligence and see how we can begin to talk about it. So, like anything, let's start with a good definition. A good definition of emotional intelligence. It is the capability of individuals to recognize their own and other people's emotions, to discriminate between different feelings and label them appropriately, and to use emotional information to guide thinking and behavior. Now, that's a direct quote from the person who originated the concept of emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman. And he said that as far back as 1998. So this isn't exactly new information, but it is a way to begin to start thinking about it. And what they proposed when they begin to break down this what a lot of this looks like, they said, well, emotions there's some skills that come with emotional intelligence, and they tend to happen along this particular quadrants and around these particular dimensions. What I see and what I do being dimensions, personal competence and social competence being other dimensions. So one of the things we're going to look at, we're going to break all four of these down to begin to look at them relative to their particular area. So, what I do in my personal competence has a lot to do with self-awareness. What I do in personal competence has a lot to do with self-management. What I do and what I do, or what I see and what I do has a lot to do with our social competence, and then what I do and what I do in my social competence has a lot to do with relationship management. So, in looking at that particular quadrant, what they've done is kind of taken these four areas and said, let's spend some time talking with them. So, what I want to do is take the areas and break them down individually to give you some insight about all this. So, in the upper left quadrant, what I see in personal competence, that gets at self-awareness. And that's this ability to recognize your own emotions and their effects, to identify how you react to cues in the environment, and to understand how your emotions affect your overall performance. Now, we can take the quote about self-awareness all the way back to to Greek mythology and some of the great Greek philosophers who talked about the importance of self awareness. Well, when you're in a work environment, how you interact, being able to say that I'm completely aware of how I'm coming across both emotionally, um, and collectively. I recognize where my emotions are, and I recognize what are some of the triggers of my emotions. Because in the workplace, the emotions run the entire gambit. There's some obviously some emotions that have to be managed. The anger, the sad, the glad, the distraught, the stress, and all those things have to be managed within the workplace. They're a critical part of the workplace, and we oftentimes begin to manage those things based on how well aware we are of that. Now, in the upper right quadrant, what you saw was what I do and personal competence. In other words, my self management. I am aware of my emotions, but how do I manage them? And self management is that ability to understand your emotions and then to use that understanding to turn situations to your benefit. Key statement, to your benefit. As someone in a leadership role or someone in some kind of managerial role, the constant interaction between you and the people who report to you is a dynamic that's always in motion. And to not think of yourself as someone with whom individuals look to for cues about things that are going on in the workplace, who rely on you for modeling the behavior that comes with being in a particular workplace, and looking at how you self manage your own emotions as a way for them to help and understand and guide their own emotions. When you are in any kind of leadership role, and and when we talk about the things every week, we typically talk about from that perspective. But even as an individual, your ability to understand the emotions that you convey and how you can use those emotions to turn situations to your benefit represents a critical leadership skill for anyone who aspires for such a role. In the lower left quadrant, what I see and my social competence. Social awareness is that ability to recognize and appropriately respond to the emotions and feelings of others. What does that mean? You're not oblivious to the things going on around you. You're paying attention to the dynamics, both the obvious dynamics and the not so obvious dynamics. People send messages, they send you cues in a variety of different ways. How they speak, both tone and indentation, and also by their body, their physicalness, what their eyes are saying, what their body is saying. Being socially aware of those kinds of things, so as to be able to respond to the emotions and feelings of others. Because the real challenge for anyone, who's going to operate in any kind of leadership role is being able to know and understand what's going on with the people around you. How are they thinking? How are they feeling? What are some things that make them angry? What did I say to make a person angry? What did another person say to make them angry? And when you put this in a team environment, that ability to be able to recognize how those dynamics are interacting and either contributing to the productivity or taking away from the productivity. That's a skill area. That's a social competence skill area that any leader in a role needs to know and understand. And in the lower right quadrant, what I do and social competence. And this is really just about relationship management. This is really about trying to understand what are some of the things that are going on around you. How good are you at managing relationships, the one-on-one relationship with the various individuals? Everybody has a different kind of need. Some people need from you more than others. Some people need from you differently than others. But that ability to stay in tune with the relationships that you have in the workplace, and then to manage those in such a way that it continues to add to the productivity to achieve the goals that you're going after. The real test of anybody who's in any kind of leadership role is how well do they manage relationships, and that never goes away. It never goes away, irrespective as to how far up you advance in the organization. Your ability to manage relationships that becomes only broader with every step in the ladder for which you advance. So, so when we think about this notion of of emotional intelligence, what it means, and how is it something, how do we begin to convey this? What we begin to recognize is the self-awareness, the self-management, the social awareness, and the relationship management. Those are all critical skill. Those are all critical leadership skill areas that have to be addressed. And like anything, um, emotional intelligence is learned. It's not something that you're just born with. It's like any particular skill. You learn it, and you learn it from practicing it. But the practice comes from being aware that you have these emotions, that there are triggers for emotions, and that when your emotions are triggered, you are aware of what they are and what is the strategy that you need to manage that as you move forward. So like anything, emotional intelligence is just another skill area in the workplace that can be real helpful to you. So one of the things you want to try to keep in mind with this now is the whole notion of how do you practice emotional intelligence. And here's a way of thinking about this. Here's a way of thinking about the practice. When my emotions are provoked, and this is a self-awareness question. When my emotions are provoked, do I self-express? In other words, do I just do I fly off the handle? Do I say whatever it is I happen to be thinking at that time? Or do I self-regulate? Do I first think, right? Reflect. Do I seize the moment, stay in the moment, and then regulate my response so as to ensure that I'm guiding it towards some kind of closure and towards some kind of resolution? Practicing emotional intelligence. Here's the question. Just give it some thought. When my emotions are provoked, do I self-express, in other words, unfiltered, or do I self-regulate? I think, I reflect, and then I respond. There's been a lot written about. There's been a lot written about emotional intelligence, and this is not one of those long lectures about it. What I attempt to do here is just give you a framework for thinking about the different skill areas that are going to help you on your career path, and then providing some kind of guidance for how you begin to move through that process. And so feel free to look up any information you want on emotional intelligence. Understand that it's still recognized as a critical skill area in the workplace, and for those individuals who can continue to manage those emotions and understand, I didn't say disregard them, right? I didn't say distill them, I didn't say completely ignore them. Recognize what your emotions are and manage them in ways that keep you focused on the goal, which is the productivity that the organizations are trying to accomplish. And that should give you some particular insights about how these things are going on. All right, one other thing that I want to let you know about, coming up next Wednesday, July 15th, is the HR Unite Conference 2020. My good friend Tina Marie Woolfield is going to be coordinating this event. I'm going to be speaking on the 15th, following my good friend James Reed, who's going to do the opening. But the real focus is going to be 8 hours of professional development skill area that's SHRM certified. So for all of you who are out there who are in the human resources field, please feel free to go to the WWW HR Unite Michigan website. Sign up while there's still a few tickets available. It is going to be done virtually, but go there and look at the lineup, because I know you're going to be impressed with all the individuals who are going to be there, all the things that you're going to see, and all the things that you're going to learn. So like anything, what I'm attempting to do here every week is just to give you some information about how to be successful in your career, how to be successful in business, how to Well, just kind of give you some things to think about, as we begin to move forward. And so, like anything, as I wind it down, one of my favorite quotes is always the whole notion of the best way to make a difference is to be the difference. The best way to make a difference is to be the difference. So, having said all that, thank you all very much for tuning in. This has been Lee Middle signing off, and I'll see you.